And again, this is one of the most confusing poems that people find. The Second Coming is the last poem we're going to talk about. The concepts you need to keep in mind are the Sphinx of Greek myth, the Second Coming of Christ, the philosophy of a vision, and the themes of despair about modernism or the modern era, and order versus chaos. So when you come to the Sphinx, keep in mind that we're not talking about the Egyptian Sphinx, we're talking about the Greek one that flies down and asks men questions, and if they can't answer the question correctly, the Sphinx will eat them. So it's a very different Sphinx to the one you're probably thinking of. The poem is divided into 2 stanzas, and it has like 1 or 2 odd rhymes, but mostly it resembles free verse modern voice rather than all of Yeats's other poems. So he tends to be more of a romantic voice. This one seems to be quite modernist. Interestingly, to describe the scene of chaos, he uses first person, as though he's an eyewitness to these events taking place. Apocalyptic imagery, for example, the blood-red tide is dimmed, and the metaphor, the ceremony of innocence is drowned, are biblical allusions to Noah's flood, which is said to have drowned the wicked on earth and gotten rid of them. The diction revelation and the Second Coming are also biblical references. So he's either trying to get the idea that there's some sort of spiritual problem with the world, or that this is going to be of biblical proportion. The problem is going to be epic. Imagery of broken or collapsing gyres also alludes to Yeats's own book, A Vision, and his idea that the modern age is uncivilised and chaotic. So that's shown in the falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. So that's big wheels and rings that are falling down, which is a big part of his central imagery. Yeats contrasts the civilised past, the Christian age, with the biblical story of the Second Coming of Christ. So when Christ died, he was supposed to say, "I will come again," and that was going to be when Judgment Day took place. So in this case, though, it's not Christ that he's imagining coming back to earth and being reborn, which would be a cause for celebration for Christians. He's imagining the Sphinx being reborn, which symbolises mythology, riddles and unanswerable questions. And of course, the Sphinx isn't really all human, it's bits of different animals. So there's a lot of that animalistic kind of low imagery associated with that as well. The metaphorical birth of the Sphinx, or Spiritus Mundi, which translates to the spirit of the earth. Its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. So we can see by that phrasing that this is not an auspicious event. He doesn't think that the modern age is going anywhere good. We can see that in the diction slouches, which is a very ugly image for someone about to give birth. This birth marks the beginning of a new age in terms of Yeats's philosophy, just as leaders giving birth to Helen did. So this is the beginning of the new age as far as he's concerned. The final rhetorical question shows Yeats's fears about the spiritual bankruptcy that this new age is going to bring. So Yeats didn't have a very high opinion of us in the modern age. He thought that we were all spiritually bankrupt. So that's mostly what this poem is about, his despair about the future. So you will need to think about critics' essays that you'll be able to quote in the essay that you write yourself. And we're going to go through some web links that should provide you with these essays to read if you haven't gotten any at school. This link has lots and lots and lots of critical responses and analyses of Yeats, so I would definitely go here first. You'll have a lot to pick from, so if you don't like the first 30, you can read the next 30. That's at literaryhistory.com. There is a good biography of Yeats on Wikipedia, actually, so that's one is probably worthwhile to have a read. And again, if you want to get into understanding Easter 1916 a little bit better, you can have a look at this link here. There's also an interesting collection of general analyses of Yeats' work and of different specific poems, so if you find you're having trouble with one poem in particular, you might want to check this out. There are also stimulus questions that you can use to prepare your own study, and that is at webenglishteacher.com. You'll also find analyses of some of the set poems at SparkNotes. They are a little bit bare, but if you're having real trouble getting into a poem, it might be a good place to start. That's the end of this lesson.